You've underestimated everything I've been through. I think you can't imagine all the things that I can do. Watch this.
Hello. In this episode, we're going to make garlic knots. Some may just call it garlic bread or whatever. Either way, it's a bread product flavored in butter and garlic. Makes a great side dish which goes well with pasta and sauce, as well as other things. Also makes a decent snack, and while it's a little bit more complicated than, say, a cup of coffee, it's still easy to make. The method that I use to make this product is somewhat different than what the packaging would tell you. Particularly, I add the cheese afterwards to melt it as opposed to during the mixing process. My wife and I have different preferences, so this makes it a lot easier to have the right amount. I would say one of the most important things in making any food is to know the mouths that you're feeding, at least when possible. This is a very flexible recipe where you can make it a meal by adding a few things instead of mozzarella. You can go with pizza sauce, as well as other pizza toppings would work. Some shredded ham and cheddar, or Swiss, or some shredded turkey, bacon, and Gouda cheese. Either way, you definitely have options. In this episode, we'll cover with and without cheese. For this recipe, we're going to be using the Pillsbury Pull-Apart Kit. There are two flavors, but the one that we'll be using is the garlic-flavored one. If you got the other flavor and you want to convert it, just double the amount of butter, don't use the sauce that comes with it, add some garlic powder, a little oregano, and some basil will help. Tinfoil, so that the cleanup is easy, Pam or your preferred cooking spray. I use a little less butter than the instructions called for, so I spray the pan just to make sure it doesn't stick. A 9x13 pan to hold everything. A butter knife. I hear it's useful for, getting butter. One day I might try it. A mixing bowl for guess what? Yep, mixing. A spatula, the plastic type for poking hot things and getting butter, at least when it's clean. Some butter or margarine. Tomato, marinara, or pizza sauce is optional, either as a dipping sauce or a little spooned on before you melt the cheese. A small bowl or measuring cup, i.e. something microwave safe so you can melt the butter. Some shredded cheese works great with mozzarella. Cheddar works as well. Oven and oven mitts. Remember, hot things hurt. If you're new to baking, this may help you prevent some smoke alarms. Most importantly, learn your oven, because it will matter. Growing up, I had a gas oven that always ran a little hot. Then the first electric stove I had was in a rental, a nice basic model, had temperature, and that was pretty much all of the UI. It always ran a little cold, but it did the job. Now I'm renting this place, and it has an okay oven. It runs at the right temperatures, but it definitely has more buttons than I'm used to. As I said, get to know your oven. Know what you're dealing with, how it works, and unfortunately this is going to be one of those trial and error type processes. Also, the pans that you use will matter. There's two main types, shiny and not shiny. Most of the instructions on the products are written for shiny pans, and if it doesn't explicitly say, assume shiny pan. Some products will tell you when or how to adjust for a darker pan. Normally it's a 25 degrees or so less temperature, a little bit, shorter time frame, but the instructions should, hopefully, help. And the final component in all of this is your oven rack placement. When the oven is cold, open it up and take a good look and see where the oven racks are located. In general, I'll go with about the second or third from the top. You want to make sure you have enough space so that you're not too close to the heating element and burning the bottom of whatever it is you're cooking, as well as you don't want to be too close to the top of the stove where either you're bumping into the broiler element or you're just splashing grease on the top of the stove. Look and see how your stove is and kind of go from there. It'll take a few attempts, but you'll get it. And if you're lucky, you can make some great garlic knots just like these. Now, let's get cooking. The first thing we're going to want to do is melt about 2 tablespoons of butter. I don't really measure it as much as go with this is as much butter as I want to use in this. Microwave the butter for about 15 seconds, depending on your microwave. You want to get it to the liquid point, but not boiling. Next, line the pan with tin foil. It helps to keep it clean. And preheat the oven to 375. Now we're going to open up the mix that came with the kit and pour it into our mixing bowl, squeezing the life out of it, get all the sauce. We're going to want to mix in the butter once it's melted and get everything well blended. Next, we're going to open up the dough can and separate it out into the small pieces. As you can see here, there are little preparations to help in breaking it apart, so just tear it up and toss it into the mixture. You're going to want to mix these pieces around, trying to get it all covered so that it's a nice even coating, and stir well. Make sure you separate any big clumps of the dough, and then you're pretty much ready at this point. We're going to spray the tin foil with the cooking spray, prevents it from, sticking. It also allows me to use a little less butter than the instructions. You do not want the bread to stick. And if the butter starts to brown and char, while it may taste good, it's not going to help prevent the smoke detector from going off. Now we're going to pour the bread mixture into the pan. And if you're using a dark pan like me, remember to drop the oven temperature down to 350 degrees. You do not want the bottom of the bread to burn. And we'll place it in the oven. We'll set the timer for about 10 minutes. When the timer goes off, we'll turn the bread around 180 degrees so that it cooks evenly. You'll want them to get a nice golden brown like this to make sure that the bread is fully cooked. In this demonstration, I'm going to be using shredded mozzarella. It's optional, but I like it. To make it easy, I'm going to place some of it on a plate. Often when it's from a bag, it'll be all clumped together. Putting it on the plate allows me to separate it out a little and makes it easier to put it on the bread. If you don't want cheese, then you're done. Put some on a plate and enjoy. For those who do want cheese, spread the cheese out on top of the bread. Put it back into the oven for about 2 to 4 minutes, depending on how melted and brown you want your cheese. And then once it's at the level that you want, take it out, put it on a plate, call it food. Some interesting alternatives, the cheddar and bacon, ham and American, turkey and Gouda are all pretty good. But we must walk before we can fly. So I'll show you some of those fancier tricks in the level 2 version. And what do you know? You have a plate of garlic knots. That looks like victory. And remember, until next time, cook the easy way. If you find this video entertaining, then like, share, and subscribe.